Hello, everybody. It is 10:18 p.m. Central Time on Thursday, October 13th, 2016. This is the voice of 𝓵𝓲𝓿𝓆. As the computer told you, I am the most controversial and censored geophysics nerd on the internet. And that's no joke, really, guys. Welcome in. Sorry I'm a little bit late. Had some plumbing stuff to take care of. It's just one thing after another here. You guys may know the story. We had hydraulic pressure on the bottom of our basement floor, cracked the basement floor, upheave it, put up a little geyser of water. Had to get that all replaced. Oh man, it's been crazy. Hot water heater, plumbing, now a leak in the plumbing, and then, oh man. It's awesome. Okay, anyways, guys, let's get right into the earthquakes and just run down what's happened today around the planet. In case you haven't been paying attention today, we saw an increase in 5.0 earthquake activity pick up across the West Pacific, South Pacific, Southeast Pacific, and 4.0 activity pick up in the North Pacific. So let's run down the areas that were struck. Take a look at it, guys. First of all, Tonga was struck. We talked about Tonga yesterday. Now you can see clearly here 5.2 marked, and if I turn on my display capture, which will show you what I'm looking at on the screen, let's see that here. There we go. We'll be able to see the earthquake statistics on this, and there we go. Hifo, Tonga, struck by a 5.2. Now we talked about Tonga last night in the update. We also talked about New Zealand and watching for a new round of larger earthquakes to strike. Now, this is not nearly what we were looking for yet, but take a look at the cluster of 4.7s spreading south-southwest from Tonga. Again, down this, let's get the name on this. Hold on, I don't even know the location on this. The Loyalty Islands. Yeah, I don't know all my islands, guys, sorry. Loyalty Islands, and then we get down to the south, and you can see New Zealand struck right at what I was calling that catcher's mitt position at the north part of the island. Then down at the very south tip of the fault zone that we talked about last night that goes down towards Antarctica and goes out to the South Pacific Rise, 5.0 right at the tip of that. So it's pretty interesting to see 4.7s, 5s, 5.2 going right up to the location that we warned. Then going west, you can see 4.7 struck in the Solomon Islands again. 5.0 struck in South Philippines near Bulacan. Then the Izu Ridge was struck by a 5.0 as well. This is south of Japan. And then we get over to the North Pacific, and you can see up in Alaska, we saw, or I'm sorry, up in Northwest Canada, that's the Northwest Territory in Yukon. If we go look these locations up, starting up here in the Northwest, you'll be able to make out there's oil pumping operations at these spots. I'm not going to waste your time by showing that to you guys. We've already looked these locations up before. You're welcome to go check up in Northwest Canada, going up through BC into Yukon, Northern Territory. That's really interesting, but again, it's nothing that shows even very well. It's low resolution satellite imagery. You actually have to go look up the information on the location. It takes a long time. Anyways, on the west coast of the U.S., check it out. Look, the whole portion, coast of California from, let's say, Clear Lake volcano that we were talking about last night, all the way down to Los Angeles proper. Multiple 2s struck with a 3.3 south of the border. Still haven't seen that 5.2 off the coast of the northwest portion of California yet. We will see it. But last night, a 5.1 struck down here in the Gulf of California, keeping true with the other 5s striking all the way around the plate. Now going down to South America through Central America, you can see 4.1 struck where? Right in Ecuador, guys. Now we talked about North Peru going into Ecuador. North Peru has not been struck, but Ecuador finally was hit. That was from 2 days ago where we issued that warning. On top of that, Nevado del Ruiz volcano up in Colombia started to erupt. Then a 5, this is all today, guys. Then a 5 struck near Easter Island, and it was upgraded to a 5.4. Europeans have it at 5. USGS has it at a 5.4. Finally, South America was struck. That's actually at the start of the day. These are mixed in. The 4s, you can only see a few of them here. Europeans had a few on there as well. 4.2s striking north and central Chile. Okay, so that's a lot of activity across the Pacific for 1 day's time. Then we get over here to the west portion of Asia, western portion of Asia, Middle East, and you'll be able to make out Afghanistan was struck, Iran was struck. We talked about watching Iran for a 5.0. Well, guys, a 4.8 struck. Now that 4.8 is going to push to the west-northwest and cause a new round of activity in South Europe going over to Italy. And this leads me right into South Europe. So take a look at what happened over today. You can see all the 2s and 3s that broke out. Then we saw activity break out over in southwest France at the North Spain border. Also 3.2 down in Algeria. Well, you may remember just a day and a half ago, I told you guys about the 4.7 that struck and how we have to watch to the west and northwest. I mentioned North Spain, southwest France, and the North Italy border region as spots to watch for similar movement to fan out to the west. Well, you'll see. 3s struck. Yesterday, go watch my update from last night. We're talking about additional 3s that struck in Italy and North Italy. So is it, and a 2.9 up in the English Channel. So is it any wonder we're seeing earthquakes spread out to the west and northwest of this location? It shouldn't be. But we're going to see a new round of activity. We're watching central Italy to North Italy for an above 4.0 earthquake to strike in the next day. We only have one more day in the watch time. So keep your eyes peeled, central Italy to North Italy, for that above 4.0 earthquake. It's not going to go too high above 4. It's going to keep in line a little bit less than the 4.7 that's pushing all this right now. You got to take into account the swarm that struck yesterday as well, guys. Okay? So that's just a brief recap of what's going on internationally. I would like to run down the smaller earthquakes in the U.S. just to see if everything is still keeping in line with our 5.0 earthquake forecast that we're watching for. Okay, so to see that, let's go turn on the USGS past 24-hour feed. This will show us all of our smaller earthquakes the last 24 hours. And just like last night, going into today, all the signs are there are for movement off the west coast. The swarms are there to the north. Now we see 𝓼𝓻𝓿 is being struck, guys. Also Bittner Butte. Now these are two locations that I talk about from time to time, but don't normally show. It's been a while since there's been any swarm activity at Bittner Butte. So I think we should start there first, then move our way down to 𝓼𝓻𝓿, then move our way down to Clear Lake and show you guys what's there. Okay, so Bittner Butte, let's start there first. Now technically this is Lakeview, Oregon, but look, they have it 70 kilometers east-southeast of Lakeview, Oregon. It's in Nevada. So, you know, the way the USGS triangulates these positions, it's kind of irrelevant of state lines. So even though it's struck in Nevada, they have it listed as Oregon, right? Okay, so we're zooming in on this, and you'll be able to see past swarm locations here marked in yellow. But look to the east-southeast. See Bittner Butte here? Let me zoom in on it and show it. Okay, we have a tuft at top here, basalt, igneous rock, old lava flows extending out to the east, west, and north. And then we can even see more recent fissures that have formed here, smaller eruptions that have occurred in the more recent history of this volcanic plateau. And there's many, many here. There's not just Bittner Butte. There's Table Butte, Painted Point, Black Hills Buttes, and then the bigger volcano in the region, Blowout Mountain, just about 10 miles to the east. And you can see the crater there where it blew out in the past. This is ancient, most likely will never erupt again. But the fact that it's being struck by a swarm, why is the swarm striking there? Well, guys, there's a lot of pressure currently building up here off to the northwest. And it's pushing right now. The pressure is pushing to the east-southeast. And it's displacing the volcanoes up at Bittner Butte. But we go further southwest, and you'll be able to see the 1.9, 0.6, and 1.2. Boerne, California. Well, let's pull the coordinates on that. And we'll do the same thing. Go put them in on Google Earth. Hit paste. And see what's there. Okay, here we go. So, you'll be able to see we have several marked volcanoes, and we'll zoom in on a few of these. Okay, here are the twin buttes. Tumble buttes north and south, but they are twins. Okay, and there's many more. Hall Butte, Logan Mountain, Wilcox Peak, Sugarloaf Peak. And you can make out the lava flows on the sides of these still. Some of them still freshly exposed with only a little bit of tree growth on those. But then we have much larger buttes to the north, more pronounced, younger lava flows, and you can see the cones on these as well. Cinder buttes, for instance. Alright, so that's where the earthquakes are striking. I mean, is anybody shocked by that? I'm not shocked, but if you're a new viewer, you might be. You might be shocked to see that these volcanoes are being hit, and all the locations down the California border are different volcanoes. Every single one of them. So if you might think I'm exaggerating, you might say, oh, you know, how do we know those are volcanoes? Well, I've shown them in past videos. I already know the locations like the back of my hand just from looking at them so many times. My longtime viewers also know the locations just by name. But if you're new, let's show you. Coso Junction, California. Well, let's go put the coordinates in. This is from the 0.5 and 0.2 to the south. Then we'll go look up the locations in between. Okay, so again, I'm doing this for new viewers, professionals, and other people who are interested in the topic, but don't normally look the locations up themselves. Okay, here's Coso Volcanic Field. Smithsonian marked. Go ahead and pause it and read this. Hasn't erupted in a very long time. Each one of these are obsidian domes that rise out of the desert, and then it's part of the greater volcanoes here, and these are cinder cones, multiple cinders, and large lava flows that extend off of those going out into the desert. And there's, 4 or 5 of them on top of each other, few off to the east, few off to the west, and it goes all the way up. The Coso Field goes all the way up here to the north, and it meets up with the south tip of Long Valley. So these are also volcanoes here. Taboos Creek, Division Creek, Charlie's Butte. Let's zoom in on that. I mean, you can see the cones and the craters on each one, so I don't have to really tell you they're volcanoes. You can see that they are. Only the ancient ones that are more weathered are kind of hard to tell. As we zoom in, you'll be able to see Mammoth Mountain. Alright, so I've just taken you up the valley to Mammoth Mountain, where the swarm is. That's on the screen here now, the 0.5s. Just a bunch of small microquakes. Okay? Now, as we go north from there, get just across the border to the north-northeast of Mammoth Mountain, what's there? Well, let's go right across the border to the north-northeast. And here we are again, yet once again, Aurora Crater, Aurora Peak, and the unnamed volcanic butte. Keep showing it over and over again because, guys, it keeps getting hit over and over again. At this point, I would dare say that the magma chamber on that must be connected to all 4 volcanoes at that spot, not just the one. So you can imagine all of these here connected at one spot down below, and then that becomes comparable in size to something like, well, what we see down to the south at Long Valley or Mono Lake Supervolcano and the Mono Lake Volcanic Field. All right, so all these locations are being struck right now, going all the way up the coast. Now, I said I was going to look up Clear Lake. I did last night. That's the swarm of earthquakes that's standing out here to the northwest. Maybe I could do it one more time. Why not? This is for people who are new, okay? We get tired of looking up the same locations every night, but here it is. Here's Clear Lake Volcano. Go ahead and pause it and read it from the Smithsonian if you want to read the volcanic history on that. And then you see Geyser Peak Volcano. It's a lot smaller down to the south. And on the sides of Geyser Peak, they're drilling in, injecting water into these spots down into the mountainside. Then it's piped off in steam up to a turbine that then collects the steam, turns turbines, and produces power for the area. Also, along the way, you have oil tanks. Okay, oil and gas tanks to collect off any extra oil or gas that might be mixed in with that so it doesn't explode when it passes out into the steam turbine. All right, so anyways, that's a human operation on top of a volcano, and it's being struck by a swarm of earthquakes. All these locations are normally hit before we see larger movement off the coast. So, like I said, all the signs are there right now that the pressure is building off the northwest. The signs are dormant volcanoes moving, pumping operations moving, and lateral faults in between the zones also moving. And that's what's going on down to the south. So you can see San Andreas Fault, Hayward Fault, going into the Garlock Fault, all moving down the California coast. This brings us down to the LA Basin. And as I told you guys, LA was struck last night. Going into today, you can see the swarm of earthquakes going from Santa Barbara with the 1.7 all the way down to South LA, down towards Newport, Balboa, right along the coast, okay? Many different locations being struck throughout here, and you can see it. Now, Salton Sea, the volcano to the south, also swarming, but the swarm has somewhat died out. See, in the last 24 hours, guys, the swarm around Salton Sea, only, what, 10 earthquakes, 15 earthquakes? Compared to several hundred on a normal day? Well, why is that? Well, the pressure is being robbed right now. Right now, there's very little pressure reaching down to Southern California. It's all distributing itself out across the volcanoes and the pumping operations because there's a new earthquake building here off the coast. Also, to the east, take a look at it. Yellowstone, all around Yellowstone, going up into Montana, west into Idaho, again struck by multiple earthquakes. This is another warning sign that there's pressure building off the coast. Yellowstone's magma chamber is 11 Grand Canyons worth of magma, extending north into Montana and west into Idaho, all the way out into central Idaho. This whole region here, 11 Grand Canyons worth of magma down below. Yellowstone is right here where the 0.6 is, going up to the northwest portion of Wyoming. Well, this means that there's pressure also displacing the Yellowstone magma chamber, letting us know it's a fair amount of pressure building off the coast, not just a little bit. So we're talking about that above 5.0 level that is going to release here very soon. As if we needed any more signs, northern Arizona was struck by a 1.6 near the 𝓼𝓽𝓻𝒆 volcanic field. But more importantly, there's something else here I think you guys might want to see. I've shown this location before. I always get a kick out of showing it, but let's go look it up one more time. Again, this is for the new people and for the people who just don't remember what's in northwest Arizona. You'll remember after I show it to you this time, I hope. Okay, here we are. See Little Black Mountain Volcanic Butte? Look to the south, guys. Look what's there. 𝓼𝓽𝓻𝒆. That's right, an ancient volcanic butte named 𝓼𝓽𝓻𝒆. Don't know why it's called that. Probably be interesting to find out the history behind it, but you can see the tuffs on here. You can also see the basalt. Maybe anodesic. I don't know, but you can definitely tell that it's volcanic in nature. Little Black Mountain Volcanic Butte also standing out as pretty obvious. Got an airport on the side of there, but you can definitely make those out. So 𝓼𝓽𝓻𝒆 is right there, but when we search the location, you can see it's just a little bit northwest of 𝓼𝓽𝓻𝒆. Pretty much on the flanks of Little Black Mountain Volcanic Butte, which is not very little and definitely is black. Or at least has dark black portions to it, which hence the name. Okay, and then as we go to the north, once we get right across St. George, we get to Twin Peaks Butte Volcano Cinder Cone. This is called the Cinder Cone, but look at it. I mean, again, it's so obvious. It stands out. It's an obvious volcano, and then here are the lava flows that extend off that. They've built highways around that. Santa Clara Volcano. There's another one. Maybe we have a street level on here. We can get a street level on. Do we? Yeah, sure do. We'll go right up on the edge of the lava field, see what it looks like at ground level. Oh, there you go. Okay, when I talk about surface level basalt, this is a great example right here, okay? So, this is a lava flow in the past. Came right out, of course, you can see all around. Stopped right there. Okay, so back it out, and you'll see they built the road on the edge of that flow instead of trying to go across it. So Cinder Cone, Santa Clara Volcanic Cone, It looks like there's more to the south, but that's kind of hard to tell. And then we get down to the south even further, and that's where the earthquake occurred. So, again, that's just another sign. All the volcanoes are being displaced, Yellowstone being displaced, even ancient cinder cones in northern Arizona being displaced. Now, the 1.7 out here in Utah, haven't looked it up, but the name on it, Carbon City, there's a huge mining operation that we've looked up in the past that's nearby this area. Again, guys, look at the depth on that, 2.9 kilometers. That's far too deep for it to be a mining operation because they're doing strip mines. So let's go see what's there. I know Carbon City's known for mining, but it might not be anything there. Let's see. Yeah. Absolutely nothing within a whole county's distance. What's this? Cedar Mountain. No. Alright. Let's go see the fault zones really quick. See if there's anything fault zone-wise there standing. Yeah, okay, there is. Just to the west, there's a small fault zone named Joe's Valley Fault Zone, the Intragraben Faults. The only nearby faults right there. Joe's Valley has to be related. Castle Valley must be moving. Joe's Valley Fault on the western portion of that being the border sign. So we'll remember that in the future so I don't have to just guess at what's there. We will know in the future that is Joe's fault. Okay. And that's all we got. Now the Midwest, of course, struck at the fracking operations. You guys know this. We showed them earlier this morning. Showed them last night. If you're not familiar with the Oklahoma fracking operations, I'm not going to take the time to show it to you now because we'll get talking for another 30, 45 minutes just about the fracking ops. So all in all, what does it mean, guys? West Coast. Look, you always have warning signs that show up beforehand. Your warning signs are your volcanoes and your pumping operations and the other earthquakes striking around the plate. So you can clearly see, this is just the 24 hours. Again, just 24 hours. It's a lot of activity for 24 hours. Now let's look quickly at the last 7 days. All right, and here's the last 7 days. We're only going to look at the larger earthquakes, and then you're really going to see it, okay? You're going to see the spreading out of fives from our deep earthquake location in Fiji, going down to the south, you see that? Going over towards South America, up to Central America, across the central portion of the Midwest Pacific, up towards Japan, and out towards India. Now, you see a few 4.9s on there. That's okay. Some of them were originally reported as 5s, others still showing as 5s, but downgraded to 4.9. But it's pretty obvious, okay? The whole southern hemisphere has moved again with only light movement to the north. This means the area to the north will compensate with similar-sized earthquakes. That the 5s that are striking around the whole plate will carry on, and carry on into the middle points of each silent zone. Okay, so that sums up the U.S. Over in Europe, you guys understand what to watch for. Now, of course, last night we told you, we're telling you again, we're watching Central Italy, North Italy for 4.0 activity to strike in the next day. Any other areas I didn't really cover or already covered in last night's update. So, if you want to check that out, go over to my channel. It is shared on my YouTube channel, or you can go to Copper Tropical's channel, check hers out as well. I know there's many areas I didn't mention, like, let's say, the Caribbean with the 4.0 that struck at Puerto Rico. But the reason, again, the 4.0 struck is because a 5.0 struck yesterday. 5.1 struck right here in the Gulf of California. Pressure transfers to the east, right along the Cayman Trench, and we got a 4.1. It was downgraded to 3.9. So originally, you got to understand, a 4.1 struck here, and they play around with the numbers, giving us lower magnitudes almost every time. However, the 5.1 was upgraded. It started out as a 4.8, and they upgraded it to 5.1. So, can't always say that. As I'm talking here right now, a rare earthquake has struck in Germany. This is pretty interesting. We don't normally see earthquake activity in Germany. Maybe we should go look it up. What's the depth on this? 10 km deep. Well, let's go put the coordinates in and see if there's anything there. I think this will be the first earthquake I've looked up in Germany in 3 or 4 years' time. I haven't looked up an earthquake in Germany in a long time. Let's go see what's there. Oh, well. Well. Isn't this interesting? We have a volcano, the west. This is in the same... we'll get a line measurement tool on here. But, I mean, we're talking not too far away, especially considering Germany. The West Eifel Volcanic Field. The West Eifel... I've never heard of it. The West Eifel Volcanic Field in the Rhineland district of Western Germany, southwest of the city of Bonn, is a dominantly Pleistocene group of 240 scoria cones, maars, and small stratovolcanoes covering an area about 600 square miles. It lies about 40 kilometers southwest of the smaller, but better known, East Eifel Volcanic Field. Individual vents, most of which cover a broad northwest-southeast volcanic field, trending area extending about 50 kilometers from the towns of Ormont on the northwest to the Bad Bertrich on the southeast. Okay, and 230 eruptions in the past 730,000 years. End of the Pleistocene, beginning of the Holocene, 10,000 years ago. All right, so if that's the West Eifel, where's the East Eifel? It's supposedly 40 kilometers to the east. Let's see how far away the earthquake is from here. Okay. Okay, well, 80 miles. Okay, that's close enough. Let's get that in kilometers. 130 kilometers. So if we have another volcanic field to the east not marked, I mean, this isn't really standing out as a huge volcanic area. I mean, take a look at it, guys. But here it is. Oh, okay, you can see the craters here, but they're weathered very... Maar volcanoes are hard to tell anyways, usually. Okay, well, that's close enough, definitely within a stone's throw for all the area of Europe to have one of the only volcanic fields marked by the Smithsonian. You see the red triangles here marking the Smithsonian marked volcanoes. There's only really 2, and it's within 100 miles of that. So it's right along the fault zone, too. You can see that. Pretty obvious. Okay, well, I'm glad we went and looked it up. Anybody shocked? We have volcanoes being struck, ancient volcanic fields being struck all around the planet. Not just in the U.S. I took the time to show you in the U.S., but if you go down to the south, you guys can check down in Peru, at Ubinas, or even Easter Island. Look, I mean, Easter Island being struck nearby over and over again. When you go look these locations up, it's nothing but undersea volcanic fields. All in all, it's caused by pressure coming up from down below the Pacific. It's causing all of these shallower earthquakes right now. This follows our previously deep earthquakes. We had a deep 4.7 and a deep 5.5. Those have now caused multiple 5s to spread out in all directions, north, south, east, and west, and it's going to carry on. The only other area I didn't talk about was New Zealand again, but we covered that in last night's update. We're still watching for that movement to strike. Both areas have been struck, south and north, which means there's now a new silent area right in between these two, which puts us onto the mainland of New Zealand. I know. So go watch last night's update, guys. We talk about New Zealand, talk about the other areas we're watching. It's pretty interesting. This is just kind of a recap to run down the areas that have been struck as of today. Have an earthquake plan ready and be prepared just in case. You may never have to use it, but in times of seismic unrest like what we're seeing right now, it's probably prudent to dust off your plans, whether you live on the West Coast, whether you live in Europe, whether you live in the Midwest, or even on the East Coast of the U.S. Think about this. Look around your house and understand that when a 4.0 earthquake strikes, which is possible even on the East Coast, that if a 4 strikes, it's powerful enough to possibly cause damage to facades on houses, crack chimneys, send them falling down, knock things off shelves. A 4. And so if a 5 strikes off the West Coast, if I'm off by 100 miles and it strikes on land, well, there's people in California, they're going to have damage to their house if it strikes on land. And when a 5 strikes on the West Coast, guess what happens then, guys? 4s strike in the Midwest, and sometimes 3s and 4s, usually smaller though, strike on the East Coast. If a 6 strikes on the West Coast, then we have to look for upper 4s to strike the Midwest, and then we really do have to look for upper 3s and lower 4s to strike on the Northeast, on the East Coast. So don't think you're immune, and if you're on the East Coast, you need to look to the Midwest for activity, and if you're in the Midwest, you have to look to the West Coast for activity, and that'll tell you what's coming your way. Okay, so that's the sum up of the earthquake information. I got some stuff to take care of here at the house tonight, guys. I'm going to be up late, definitely working hard. Physical manual labor, I don't mind it at all. But we're getting her done, and it'll be, when it's done, and then I can take a hot shower. Appreciate your hot water while you got it, guys, because when you don't have hot water and you don't have water, that really stinks. And you stink too when you don't have water. Or I stink, at least. All right, guys, much love, much love, much love. How many people are in here right now? Looks like about 389 people currently. If you could you please subscribe if you're not subscribed? And please share the live stream or the videos on my channel that give the warnings. We want the warnings to get out to everybody, but I can already tell you, I'm not even that excited anymore because I went over to my channel to check and, like 3,000 or 4,000 people had seen last night's update warning everyone. I mean, it's just like, what? Like, people don't want to know when an earthquake's going to strike, or are people just not sharing? I don't know what it is, but it may be institutional censorship. Not maybe. It most likely is some kind of censorship that's going on here because they're trying to stop people from hearing about earthquake forecasting because they denied that earthquakes could be when I say they, I'm talking about the professionals at the USGS and several other agencies like IRIS and the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network. All decided it would be a great idea to come on over to my YouTube pages, my Facebook pages, and say some horrible things using their main accounts. Yeah, that was genius. So here we are, guys. We're all the ones that are going to be the ones who share the information and try to save lives with earthquake forecasting. And it falls on you, it falls on me, and so I have to ask you one more time, please share the information. And I want to thank everybody who's been part of my fundraiser. Guys, take a look at the screen. Here we are today. And now I am at 55% of my total yearly goal. Been running for 39 days. 444 people have contributed a total of $19,247. That is tremendous. Thank you. Thank you beyond belief. And every bit that you guys give goes towards me being able to be here 24/7, 365. And if something big goes down, I can jump on and do an update at a moment's notice. Also, so that we can get the forecasting out to the world. This is mainly my main priority at this point, is to get the forecasting out to the world on a daily or semi-daily basis so that people can have a warning. I don't want people to be scared or caught off guard by earthquakes anymore. It's like the weather, guys. You can know what's coming to some extent. You can know where it's coming from, the pressure. You can know where it's going to, traveling to, and you can know the expected magnitudes to mostly some extent. I would say 9 times out of 10, or 85% accuracy, we could put it that way too, that 85% of the time we see the expected magnitudes strike the expected locations. There are a few anomalies. Sometimes there are excess solar events. There's also some man-made events that play into these things. And I'm not just talking about fracking. I'm also talking about energy releases and that kind of stuff. It gets really technical, but even fracking can induce earthquakes and actually increase our earthquake activity when we would only have a small amount of pressure transferring across the North American plate, for instance, and then it hits a fracking operation, causes a superfracture. Next thing you know, you've got 100 earthquakes where you'd only normally have 1. That's a huge increase by man, caused by humans, accentuating an already prone situation. Okay? So I'm kind of digressing in my little descriptions here, but I want people to understand that, again, we can know when earthquakes are going to strike, and with the way we know is by paying attention to what's striking elsewhere. All right, folks, have a good evening, good afternoon, good morning, or good night, Truman Show style, and I will be back on if something goes down. Much love, much love. Got to take care of business, though. I got to go take care of some leftover plumbing stuff, and we'll be all good. So peace out, folks. You know what? I'll be back in about an hour. Let's just say in about an hour, I'll jump back in here and just kind of run down, see what everybody's doing in the chat room. Maybe chat with everybody for a little bit, because there is no way I'm going to sleep anytime soon. Peace out, guys.